The village chief listened quietly, then spoke only once. If he was confused, he said, why was his phone taken? If he refused food, the chief continued, why was he not allowed visitors? Silence. The questions stacked like stones, and beneath them, the truth cracked open. The daughter leaned close to her father's ear that night and whispered his name softly. Daddy, it's me. Michael's lips trembled, his eyes filled, and for the first time since his return, Elder Michael spoke. They locked me in, he whispered. The words barely left his mouth, but they landed like thunder. They said they were protecting me. They took my phone. They said people wanted to harm me. They said I should not trust anyone. The daughter closed her eyes, tears falling freely now. They controlled my food, he continued weakly. They said I was sick, but I wasn't. I was just trapped. The room felt like it was collapsing inward. This was not misunderstanding. This was strategy. Over the next few days, as Michael grew stronger, more details emerged. The siblings had begun managing his affairs almost immediately after his arrival. They insisted on handling his finances to reduce stress. They isolated him from the community, feeding him fear, telling him people were jealous, that visitors only wanted his money. Slowly, they convinced him that safety meant obedience, and obedience meant silence. Why? Property, control, power, the mansion, the land, the assets he had built over decades of sacrifice. They believed that if they broke him quietly, they could inherit everything without resistance. But they miscalculated one thing: community. As news spread, the village responded, not with violence, but with unity. Elders gathered. Meetings were held. Decisions were made. The story was no longer hidden behind family walls. This was now a public truth, and once truth becomes public, it cannot be buried again. The siblings stopped coming to the hospital. Shame had finally found them. A week later, arrangements were made. Elder Michael would return to America with his daughter, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. He needed care. He needed distance. He needed safety. The day they left, the village gathered quietly. No music, no celebration, just people standing with bowed heads as a man who had almost been erased walked away, alive but changed. As they disappeared down the road, I felt something shift inside me. This was not the end. It was the beginning of reckoning, because betrayal does not end when it is exposed. It only adapts. And far away, across the ocean, the final act was already being prepared. I thought the worst part of the story had already passed. I was wrong. Betrayal does not end when you escape it. Sometimes it follows you quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment you let your guard down. When Elder Michael arrived back in America, his body was weak, but his spirit was still intact. His daughter did not take chances. She placed him in a professional caregiving facility, clean, well-staffed, and structured. It was not abandonment, it was protection. Every decision she made was deliberate. Doctors monitored his recovery. Nutritionists rebuilt his strength. Therapists helped him process the trauma of isolation and deception. Slowly, color returned to his face. Slowly, his voice grew steadier. But trauma leaves fingerprints. Michael often woke up startled, convinced he was locked in again. He hesitated before eating, afraid food would be taken away. He flinched when unfamiliar voices called his name. The daughter watched all of it, and she remembered everything. Then came the visits. At first, they were subtle. A man signed in at the front desk using Michael's surname. He claimed to be family. The receptionist let him through. The nurse on duty noticed something immediately. This visitor did not come with warmth. He did not ask about recovery. He did not bring comfort. He leaned close to Michael's bed, speaking softly, urgently, always when the daughter was not around. The nurse watched from the doorway, and something felt wrong. The visitor returned days later, this time with a woman, polite, smiling, well-dressed, his American wife. They stayed longer, too long, always whispering. When they left, Michael appeared confused, agitated, anxious. The nurse made a note. On the third visit, she overheard words that made her stop walking. Just sign it. It's for your own good, so we can manage things for you. You don't need stress. She didn't confront them. She did something smarter. She called the daughter. When the daughter arrived and heard what had been happening, her stomach dropped. This wasn't concern. This was continuation. Her uncle, the same brother who had helped orchestrate Michael's isolation back home, had followed them across the ocean. Same plan, new location. He wanted signatures, property transfer, power of attorney, total control. But this time, they had underestimated one thing. The daughter had learned. She did not react emotionally. She did not confront them immediately. She watched, she documented, she requested visitation logs. She spoke privately with the nurse. She reviewed the documents they tried to sneak in. And then she acted. She reported everything. The facility immediately restricted access. Legal counsel was brought in. Elder Michael was evaluated independently and declared mentally competent. The brother returned one final time. This time, security met him at the door. He protested. He shouted. He claimed entitlement. But entitlement has no power when truth stands tall. A restraining notice followed. The daughter sat beside her father that evening and told him everything, all of it. The silence that followed was long. Michael stared at the window, watching sunlight fade into dusk. I trusted them, he finally said. Yes, his daughter replied softly. And they used that trust. He nodded slowly, then he straightened. They will never touch my life again. That night, Elder Michael made decisions that would echo far beyond that room. He reorganized his assets. He rewrote his will. He documented everything that had happened. And he spoke, not in anger, in clarity. He recorded a message, not for revenge, but for truth. A record, a testimony, something no one could twist again. Months passed. Michael healed. He walked stronger. He laughed again. He slept through the night. The fear loosened its grip. But he did not forget. He chose not to return immediately. Not until he was ready. There is something about guilt that no medicine can cure. While Elder Michael was rebuilding his strength in America, learning how to trust food again, how to sleep without fear, how to breathe without expecting confinement, Francisca was unraveling thousands of miles away. At first, no one noticed. Back home in the village, life continued with an uneasy calm. The house that once felt like a fortress now felt hollow. Francisca rarely left her room. When she did, her steps were hurried, her eyes restless. The same woman who once controlled every movement in that mansion now avoided mirrors. People whispered. They always do. They said she had stopped eating properly. They said she no longer slept at night. They said she talked to herself, arguing with invisible people. They said she woke screaming, calling Michael's name. At first, she dismissed it all. She told neighbors she was tired. That stress had finally caught up with her. That everything would pass, but it didn't. Within days of the incident at the caregiving facility in the United States, within days of her brother's final plan collapsing, Francisca fell ill, suddenly, violently. It began with headaches so intense she could not stand light. Then came fever, then vomiting, then weakness so deep she could barely lift her arms. Doctors were called, herbalists came, prayers were said, nothing worked. Her body deteriorated at a terrifying pace, as if something inside her had decided it was time to collect a debt long overdue.
Those who visited her noticed something unsettling.
She was not afraid of dying. She was afraid of remembering.
In her delirium, Words slipped out. Fragments of conversations, half confessions, whispered regrets.
They weren't supposed to find him. I was protecting what was ours. He should have listened. Some visitors left her room shaken. Others never returned. The village, once cautious, now watched from a distance. Compassion does not grow well in soil watered by betrayal. By the fourth day, Francisca could no longer speak clearly. Her breathing came in shallow bursts. Her eyes stared at corners of the room, as if watching something no one else could see. On the fifth day, she died. No long goodbye, no redemption speech, no apology, just silence. The news spread quickly, but it did not land the way deaths usually do. There were no wails in the streets, no frantic running, no drums of mourning, only quiet acknowledgement. The elders gathered. They spoke plainly. "This woman broke the trust of blood," one elder said. "She used love as a weapon," another added. "She brought shame into her brother's home." The decision was unanimous. Francisca would be buried, but without honor. No public tribute, no praise, no ceremonial prayers reserved for respected members of the community. Her burial was quick, simple, almost cold. A small group attended, mostly out of obligation, not grief. No speeches were given. No stories were shared. No tears fell. The same community she had once manipulated had now withdrawn its voice, and in that silence, her legacy was sealed. When the news reached America, it arrived quietly. A phone call, short, unemotional. The daughter listened without interrupting. When the call ended, she sat still for a long time. Then she walked into her father's room. Michael was sitting by the window, sunlight resting gently on his face. He looked stronger now, fuller. "Present, she's gone," his daughter said softly. He didn't ask who. He already knew. Michael closed his eyes. He did not smile. He did not cry. He breathed. Just once, "I never wanted her to die," he said after a long pause. "I know," his daughter replied. Another silence. "What she did," he continued, "was her choice." "Yes, what happened to her," he said quietly, "was not mine." Francisca was not punished by her brother. She was not hunted. She was not cursed. She was consumed by the weight of her own actions. And sometimes, that is the harshest ending of all. Back in the village, people spoke of it for weeks, not with gossip, but with reflection. They told their children about loyalty. They warned each other about greed. They reminded themselves that betrayal has consequences that no one can predict. And when he finally returned, he did not come quietly. The village heard first, then the siblings. Elder Michael was returning, not as a victim, not as a prisoner, but as a man who had seen the face of betrayal and survived it. This time, he did not go to the mansion. He went to the village square. He stood among the people, and he spoke. He told the truth, calmly, clearly, without insults or rage. He named no one, yet exposed everything. By the time he finished, silence filled the air. Not shock, understanding. The siblings never spoke publicly again. They didn't need to. The truth had already sentenced them. Elder Michael did not seek punishment. He reclaimed something greater, dignity. And as I stood there, watching him, alive, standing unbroken, I realized something powerful. Revenge is not always destruction. Sometimes revenge is survival. It is reclaiming your voice so loudly that the people who tried to silence you can never escape it. Elder Michael walked away that day, not into shadows, but into light. And the village remembered. Because betrayal may wound deeply, but community, truth, and resilience always have the final word.